Will our robots ever understand us? I'm thinking particularly of advanced humanoid robots like Tesla's Optimus. To give them the world sense they'll need to navigate the physical world, Elon has spoken about moving beyond large language models to something more fundamental. World sense grounded in first principles physics. That makes sense for navigating the physical world, but how about understanding humans? If we want robots that can genuinely interact with us, anticipate our needs, and respond with appropriate intention, on what first principles basis can we inform them about human nature itself? This is not just a technical question. It is also a mirror. If our robots need a deep, principled understanding of human nature to understand us, then wouldn't we benefit by gaining the same, deeper understanding of ourselves? How could we arrive at that deeper understanding? How does science turn physics into fundamental first principles thinking? Take the modern concept of energy, scattered observations, heat, mechanical work, light, falling masses, electricity, pressure, all got distilled into a single, powerful abstraction, a measurable quantity inherent in all of these seemingly unrelated phenomena. This distillation did more than merely organize data. It expanded our understanding of the physical world and gave us greater powers of prediction and control. It enlarged our wisdom. Can we apply this process to human nature? Can we achieve wisdom like this by distilling findings in fields where science is less developed? I'm thinking particularly of our understanding of ourselves, consciousness, creativity, in general, our lived mental experience. Let's try. The example of energy shows us how gather scattered findings and distill them into broader generalizations. The problem is science offers us fewer ready-made findings about our mental experiences to bring together. Science labors mightily at linking consciousness and creativity to specific regions of the brain, but that can tell us very little about those experiences themselves. One thing science can tell us is where they come from. They evolved, and about evolution, it has gathered a great many findings. Can we generalize about ourselves from findings like that? We can ask, what processes carried evolution throughout its long history, and can we identify in that history earlier versions of the kinds of creative powers we find in ourselves? But how would we recognize those powers? What characteristics can we search for to identify creative processes? And I'm stumped. We don't seem to have developed language for talking about that. For want of anything better, I'm going to resort to using concepts we use to describe creativity as we experience it in ourselves. Predicting likely futures, planning alternative responses, evaluating likely outcomes, intending decisions, marshalling physical resources to execute decisions, maintaining alertness to threats and opportunities. then our search can only be for signs of these earlier in evolutionary development, signs that we can imagine evolving into the consciousness and creativity we experience in ourselves. In searching for the earliest such signs, how far back in the course of evolution do we have to go? Science's account of evolution begins with a mechanism called the modern synthesis, consisting of two purely physical processes, genetic mutation and natural selection. But that is obviously too remote a place for us to start, since it bears no relation at all to the characteristics of mental activity we're looking for. We need instead to look where we might glimpse early signs of the characteristics of creativity as we know them. How far back? Ideally as far back as the origin of life as we know it. What has lasted as long as life itself, showing changes over time that reflects how life itself changed as it evolved? For Darwin, this persistent presence driving evolution was the environment. As it changed, it drove corresponding changes in species correction. But again, I see no sign in the environment of the characteristics associated with mind that we're looking for. What else can science tell us about that's lasted throughout the course of evolution from the origin of life up to today? Quite recently, an entirely new arena of scientific discovery has emerged: genomics. Genomes have been found in every species of living creatures, suggesting genomes have existed for as long as life itself. And as the organisms they correspond to evolved to become more complex, those genomes got longer and more complex too. When we pay attention to their role in the creation of new species, an argument can be made that evolution has demanded of genomes the very kinds of envisioning, planning, evaluating, intention, and execution we recognize in our own creative expression. Now, from this gathering of scientific findings, where's the distilled wisdom? The field of genomics is so new that asking it to generate such wisdom in our time is probably expecting too much. But as genomics develops, perhaps over centuries, we may anticipate vast advances in new wisdom emerging. What part can we play in facilitating such extensions in our wisdom, perhaps unfolding only in the remote future? I have outlined such a role for us in a time travel story I include in this YouTube channel called Children of the Genome. It really fits here as part of this video, but it's long enough to stand as a video on its own. I link to it from this video's description. How does it suggest we blaze a path to this new source of wisdom? First, it suggests how scientific research might turn to the study of genomes themselves as particular personalities in their own right. And in the end, I suggest how, by following such a path, the study of genomes generalizes into a vast extension of human wisdom. That's Children of the Genome. Obviously, from my having already written such a story, you can tell I've been thinking about this for some time, about 3 decades actually. I refer to where I've landed as evodualism. It comes out of merging 2 ideas. First, that 3 centuries of science have left us with a conceptual framework so tightly focused around purely physical matter that we are better off conceiving of mind as an entirely distinct form of reality, for which we need an entirely separate conceptual framework. That is, for thinking about mind, I advocate embracing dualism. Second idea, we should think of mind not as some mysterious essence entirely divorced from everything else in the universe, but as a set of capabilities that evolved. Along with matter, evolution, and mind are also properties built into the universe. Mental capacities, whether in us or in our genomes, come about through evolution. And by supposing our creative thinking employs the same processes as genomes use to think up new species, I can conceive of our thinking as our thoughts evolving, each thought evolving into the next. Then we end up with a theory of everything, including ourselves, as consisting of only matter and processes acting on matter, both physical processes and evolutionary processes. This process, distilling scattered facts about evolution and mind into a generalization about everything that exists, I refer to as evo-dualism. In this YouTube channel, I have an entire playlist devoted to it. It includes a 7-part series of videos with the overall title, Natural Philosophy for the 21st Century, describing both the logic behind evo-dualism and as full an accounting of it as I've yet arrived at. All are linked to in this video's description. Am I serious? I am serious in supposing there are concepts we've yet to discover that would help us understand ourselves better. And I'm open to speculating about those missing concepts and trying to identify them, and to imagining what benefits that might bring us. This is not quite science. It belongs to what used to be called natural philosophy, speculation about what the world must consist of, that gave out as the physical sciences matured. But that tradition remains available to us as a place to deposit speculations where science in turn gives out. We may deposit our speculations there as paving stones, marking out potential future courses for science. If you're looking for meaning in all my fussing over mind and evolution, that is what it means to me. And I confess, I'm serious about it. Consider this a modest proposal. I end with a card linking to Children of the Genome. Watching it could help make this real for you.